This is the New Zealand yen, and we have a head and shoulders, but I've actually used a flag pattern as the entry, and we do also have some trend within this these patterns as well. So let's go out to the dailies. Very interesting this on the New Zealand yen. Here on the dailies, I'm going to put a structure level on at the low of the structure level, and here on the dailies you can see we've held that level, but what we've done is we've seen a bounce and a retest. So here on the dailies there's nothing here other than the market retesting the market, the price action retesting those lows. On the 240 though, which is still classed as my higher time frame, we have a different story. You can see here that we actually had a break below, close below, so we violated structure. This was a double bottom, but it was invalid because it broke this structure level. And if we just take a look here, we can see price can come down to, as a minimum, this very first test right here. So we're predicting the market could be coming lower here. What other confluence do we have? Well, if we put a fib on from our swing high to our swing low, we have come into a 38.2 after a very decent rally. That's a good sign. And the market here on the 240, this big bearish candle here is actually a lower low, lower close. If I just leave it there, you can see it is lower than this internal structure level just here. And we do have this inverted hammer here, pin bar, so it gave us a nice 3-bar reversal there, an indication that we could be coming lower. Now this that I'm talking about here, within here is the head and shoulders on the 60 and the 15, but what I'm just going to do is put a structure level on where that 38.2 fib came into, which is the tops here. And if we're looking at this being the area where we're going to come lower, ideally we want it to come into structure. And to be honest, there's very, very little structure here. We've got this, but it is historical, it is not recent. And that's about it really. So not a great deal here at all. So when I'm looking for this head and shoulders then, I do want to be conservative because that hasn't come into structure. So I'm just going to show you this right here. We've actually had, you can class this as it's not really a triple top, but we had test, test and test. And what we did after holding that level, well, we did actually violate up here, but triple test, and then we violated to the downside. We saw a pullback and we violated again. So we've got a 3-point move there. So let's draw this out, this whole thing out. So from our very low, which we know was a break below, close below, we had a new high. We saw a pullback. We saw a new high. We had a triple test up there. But with that triple test, we then broke to the downside. Now, that means then that this head and shoulders looks like this. This was not an initial structure low, and it needed to be. But what happened then is we saw a pullback, we held the left shoulder, and then we violated again to the downside, so giving us a 3-point move. 1, 2, 3, and we once again are seeing a pullback. Now whenever we see a directional candle like this, then that means there's lots of selling pressure in the market, and as the market excuse me, as the market retraces, we have 3 areas we can look. We have the first chance entry, which is in the wicks, the second chance, which is in the candle bodies up here, and the last chance, which is in the wicks at the above. If we see a very directional move or a heavy trend or a very directional candle, then typically we want to be looking for our entry within the first chance entry area, which is the wicks. Now, with this being a head and shoulders, we can look at the market coming at least down to this level, down to this structure level here. We do know on the 240 that that was a break below, close below. So if I now drop down to the 15 and look for my entry, we have this flag pattern that's occurred, and I'm going to draw it out on the closes of the candles, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it and move it up and have it on the closes of the candles. Now, to validate it, we need a minimum of 4 touches. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and it has come into our wicks, so we know that this is a valid trade. And there was a nice 3-bar reversal here as your entry, though I've only just got in this trade. What we have done though is it looks as though we've broken out of the channel here. Just to confirm that, what we can do is move the structure level down to the lowest spike, and you can still see that we have now broken out of the channel. So for this pattern then, do we hit a minimum of a 38.2 fib? Yes, we've actually come into a 61.8 fib, so that's a very, very good sign. And in terms of targets then, well, we know that we can play for a minimum of this structure level here, which was based off the 240. But if I go ahead here and throw a fib on, and we're just looking for that 127, I'll bring back on the orders, then you can see it's come in on our structure level, and I'm front running as well from that 127 fib by a couple of pips. What I have done though is I've ensured that my stop is more than an ATR back. Because we've broken out of the channel, typically I only want to be an ATR back because I've had the confirmation we've broken out. But I've gone further back than that purely because this is a high probability trade and we have only just kind of entered the wicks. So I'm just going to go back to the 60. I want to give it a bit of breathing room to ensure that we don't get stopped out of this trade, because look at the reward to risk that we've got. So I've actually gone back here. I've gone back 13 pips. So I've gone back almost 2 ATRs. It does mean that the risk on this trade is 17 pips and the reward is 42. So a fantastic reward to risk there. Head and shoulders using, we've got a 3-point move and another pullback into structure for the first chance entry using a flag pattern as the entry. And we're back on the New Zealand yen, and targets have just been hit for 42 pips. Lovely, 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 lovely. Played out really well. The left shoulder, the triple head, the break, the pullback, there's the 3-point move, there's the pullback. I did say it wrong in the first part of the video. It was 1, 2 and 3 down here, and then the pullback into the wicks using the flag. So in this scenario, waited for the additional confirmation, because this higher structure level here, there was no other structure around, but we waited, we went into trend, we pulled back into the wicks, we got the flag pattern, we played for the extension, and now it has set up an advanced pattern. We set up here a back pattern. Nevertheless, out of that for 42 pips.